Welcome to In Conversation with MANWAR podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Do Not Be a Bystander campaign. You can join us in raising awareness about bullying by visiting the donotbeabystander.com, and be sure to subscribe to the channel to stay informed about upcoming episodes. Today's participants are Arif and Barira. Our special guest for today's episode is Joe Bisignio.
Welcome to our Bullying Awareness podcast. I'm your host, MANWAR Khan. Today I'm joined by two young individuals who are ready to share their thoughts and insights on the topic of cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is a significant issue in today's digital age, where the internet and the social media platforms plays a prominent role in our lives. Both of our participants have the same goal: eliminating bullying from our communities. These young individuals are passionate about addressing issue of bullying and willing to empower others, and that's why they are here today. Today's participants are Arif and Barira. Thank you, Arif and Barira, for joining us today.
Great. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you for having us.
You are welcome. Um, Before we continue, I would like to introduce our special guest for today's podcast, Joe Signal. Joe will shed some light on this topic and give some tips and advice. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Joe. Joe was born and raised in Halifax, Nova Scotia. In In 2016, Joe was elected in a by-election as a trustee for the Greater St. Albert Catholic School Division, and subsequently re-elected in 2017 and 2021. How did you do that, Joe? I need to learn those stuff to got re-elected.
You
Right.
get really, really lucky.
No, it's nothing to do with luck. Um, in May 2014, Joe was named the St. Albert Volunteer Citizen of the Year. Joe is a founding member of the Greater St. Albert Catholic School Education Foundation, helping them to organize under the Alberta Societies Act and then obtain charitable status with the Canada Revenue Agency. The foundation annually awards scholarships to deserving students as well as lend support to school projects in need of funding. Thank you, Joe, for joining us today. Um,
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now that we have introduced our participants and guests, let's get started with our question. The rise of cyberbullying has become a pressing concern, impacting the well-being of individuals, particularly their mental health. So my first question for Arif is, can you define cyberbullying, what it means to you, with some example, and how does it affect person's mental health?
Sure. Thank you. So, in my opinion, I think I'll place the example first. So, I would like to, with our digital age and in social media, most of our young kids, young people, we are posting a little bit of our lives all the time. And one of the aspects that is worth mentioning is when somebody who's already feeling a little insecure about in school or in uni, they post something about themselves, for example, their picture with a family or their dog, or something like that. And then some evil actor within that circle, friends or whatever, they put like a mean comment, and that actually has like a dramatic effect on their ability to feel accepted in social again. Bear in mind, maybe they already had a lot of trouble posting that image, and then that one little comment could like literally push them overboard, and they can go into a tailspin that they don't feel accepted. They're having a miserable social life, all inclusive. So I think this is something that I probably noticed recently, and I thought I could share that with you.
Right, excellent. So great answer. So for cyberbullying, we do understand that the bully use technology, social media or cell phone. So I give you an example that you received a text that you are not supposed to receive about one of your friends, and that's somebody doesn't like someone, so they took a picture or something, a video or text, recorded it without their consent and send it to you. What do you think you should be doing at that time?
Um, First of all, it would be really sad if somebody took like a video without me letting know in a place maybe it seems more vulnerable than it is. So maybe I'm eating in a funny way and making a noise or something. And just because it is shared and people find it very easy to reshare and laugh about it, I would be really upset if that actually happened. Because again, as you mentioned, because it's uncontrollable in this social media age, it takes a few seconds, a few smirky comments to make it so much worse for me.
Yeah, and exactly. And you, which means what I understand you saying is you will take a stand against that, definitely. At the same time, you are not, if it's not about you, it's about somebody else, you are not uh, sending it to another friend, right? Because that's someone's personal stuff. So you keep it, and you need to delete. But I would say take a screenshot so that if it has to come to that point that you have to involve law enforcement agencies, then you need to show them that, okay, this is what I received, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. Great answer. Thank you, Arif. Um, so when witnessing someone being cyberbullied or bullied, bystanders have a power to make a significant difference by intervening of providing support. So my question for Barira is, what does bystanders mean to you? How can bystanders intervene or support who is being bullied? Your opinion, Barira.
All right, thank you very much. So when we define a bystander, I understand that those are the people who are actually just standing beside in case of cyberbullying. They're just exactly watching that somebody's probably recording an embarrassing moment of someone, just like Arif cited an example of, and then they're uploading it without that person knowing of it. Right. So a bystander is someone who either stands there or watches it or partakes in it without directly bullying that person. So in a way, even after, I mean, it's still not nice to be a bystander because it still means that you're not doing actively anything against it to stop the bullying per se. You're possibly not participating in it, but you're not doing anything more about it either. You're not even trying to stop it. Or you may be thinking that, okay, you're staying in the crowd, you're laughing, you're like, behind there, and but you're still kind of laughing just to fit in, trying to fit in. So that is, I think, the genuine, not, I mean, like the normal definition or a genuine definition of a bystander, since they're not doing anything about it. In terms of cyberbullying, or in general, if a bystander has to come intervene, they really just have to stay straight up, say to the bully, kind of directly, that this is not nice, and what you're doing can make them feel very insecure, can affect them in ways that you do not understand. And for you, what is a joke can be for them is heightening their insecurities. So it's not nice at all. And in terms of reporting it, I think online there are a lot of ways that you can report cyberbullying these days. For example, if somebody posted something online again, right, and they're not really fond of the comments that they are receiving, there's always a way to flag it. So all kinds of social media platforms, they have a way of like flagging these things. So I think in terms of cyberbullying, all these mean comments or things that could let people down, those can be reported as inappropriate or offensive, and that is the way of intervening cyberbullying,
Right.
in my opinion. So
That's a great answer when it comes to cyberbullying. So, but if it's in a real in-person bullying you see, the first thing I would say, the first thing, if you take a stand, the first thing you need to check that if this is safe for you or not. Your safety comes first, and then you take a stand. And if you think it's not safe, then do not jump in to help. Step back, try to get help for that person. Not instead of going there alone, you rather try to mobilize some people or friends or call someone who can help with that. Even if it's a violent situation, then in that case, I would say call law enforcement agencies 911. What do you think, Arif, about this?
Yeah, that makes sense. And a bystander, as Barry mentioned, shouldn't be the one who puts flame into a fire. Maybe takes active role in, reducing the trouble that could escalate further. So yeah, I think reporting tools are pretty cool nowadays. And also we should, as a bystander, I guess we should just putting up on your jet if things are safe, intervene, or at least don't add to more misery, I guess, towards that person by saying anything or actively resharing anything. Um, that would be my opinion on that.
Exactly. And the slogan for my campaign is, when you see something, say something. Do not walk away from there. Don't say that it's not your business. That's all it matters. Thank you so much, Varira, and thank you so much, Arif, for your responses. Do you guys have anything else, any other comments or statements to add?
No, thank you. I'm okay.
All right, now I would like to welcome our guest Joe to share his thoughts and insights on this topic. You heard our participants, what they had to say. Any advisor tips for them?
Well, firstly, I think thanks to both Maria and Arif. That I think you pretty much nailed what it is that needs to be done if you find yourself either A, the victim of cyberbullying, and or B, a bystander, which is typically, thankfully, where most people will find themselves being a bystander. Berea, your comment about people wanting to fit in and be part of the group is so on point. We need to, just in terms of talking about um, something that is sent to you, whether it's a video or a compromising photo, um, and or if you're there and you're participating by laughing with the rest of the group, that makes you part of the problem as well. And so it is a very Manwar, that was a brilliant point where you said if it is safe to do so. So there are reporting mechanisms, whether you, particularly if you're in school. I was just reading up that here in the province of Alberta, the Education Act takes precedence, and all school divisions must work um, with that in mind and adjust their policies and their administrative procedures around the Education Act. And there is specifically uh, a portion that talks about the students' code of conduct, and then that is broken right down. Each one of the schools in our division actually have a policy, individual school policy on cyberbullying, on bullying in general, which of course cyber bullying had to be added to that over the years. And those are read to the students at an assembly in the first or second day of every school year, so that kids know that this is not acceptable, and that if you witness it, if you're part of it, this is what you do. And so knowing that there are avenues and tools that the students can use to report that kind of thing um, helps them to be sort of the non-participant. I do want to go back to the very initial thing where somebody posts a picture of family or friends, and then right off the bat somebody puts a nasty comment on it or a derogatory comment. Now, people, there are several ways to work around that. Number one, if you are the original poster, you can delete any comment that is posted on your, whether it's Facebook or whatever. There's a delete function there. If it continues, you can block the individual. One of the other things the way I do my settings on my social media is that I only allow my friends to comment. And so if you and I are not joined together as friends, whether you invited me or I invited you to be friends, then you're not going to have the ability to comment on any post that I put. I get lots of those messages from people who I can't comment on your stuff. Well, there's a reason for that, particularly I, I just make sure because I do have a public profile, as an elected official, as a former class clown. I used to put a lot of funny stuff on. Since I became a school board trustee, I thought, well, you know what, you should be a little more discriminatory on the kinds of things you post. Um, the last one, the subject, I've never had this happen to me, but we've seen it in the news where somebody, a young lady, I believe she was in Nova Scotia, where she, very compromising video and photos were taken and shared around social media, and it became so difficult for her that she ended up taking her own life. And so that is the extreme end of what can happen through cyberbullying. So I strongly encourage everyone, if it's safe to do so, use the tools that are available to you to report cyberbullying. Use, and it's not only in schools, it's also in the workplace. Many organizations now have also developed policies because it also happens in the workforce, especially with younger employees or employees just starting out. So that's the advice I have. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe?
No, I'm good, Joe. Thanks. You explained it pretty well.
All right. Thank you so much, Joe. So we have come to the end of our podcast. I'd like to thank our participants, Arif and Barira, and also want to thank Joe for joining us today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Before we wrap up, I would like to remind our listeners that there are several resources available to help dealing with bullying. The Government of Alberta has a bullying helpline that provides support and advice to experiencing bullying. The helpline can be reached at 1-888-456-2323. Bullying is a violation of human rights. Under no circumstances is bullying acceptable. Thank you for joining in conversation with MANWAR Khan, and see you next week. Thank you, everyone. Bye.